How's it going, my Christmas bakers? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're making Lussekatter, which are Swedish saffron buns. So let's go to the kitchen and check them out. Just look at these beauties. They have a unique shape, they have an amazing color, they are extremely soft and light, and the saffron gives them a very unique flavor. And the best part is that they are super easy to make. This is one of the simplest Christmas breads, but no doubt it's also one of the best. Just look at that texture. I was planning to make them last year, but I never got around to it. Better late than never, right? And if you're looking for something simple and unique to bake this Christmas, this might just be it. Stick around to see exactly how it's made. First things first, let's see what ingredients we need. We need some white bread flour, milk, yeast, salt, sugar, saffron, some softened butter, and I decided to add some ground cardamom to this. I don't think it's commonly used, but I had some left over and I love the flavor, so I added it. You can certainly leave it out, it's totally up to you. Finally, we'll need an egg for glazing and some raisins for decoration. As for the equipment, we'll need a tray with some non-stick paper, a bowl, scales, a dough scraper, temperature probe, and a brush. Now there are a couple ways of dealing with the saffron. You could infuse it in the milk, but I think grinding it together with sugar is a great option, because we will get all the color that we need from it, and of course the flavor, and at the same time we won't have to deal with the saffron strands, because it will be ground down to a powder. If you infuse it in the milk, you might want to strain the strands out, but that too is up to personal preference. They of course won't do any harm if you leave them in. If you do end up using a pestle and mortar like I did, then here's a quick tip. Use a brush to take the powdered sugar and saffron mix out. It is the perfect tool for this job, and I only realized that recently. We'll be kneading this dough using the slap and fold kneading method, which doesn't warm it up very much. And that is why this time I'm using slightly warmer milk than I normally would. Okay, let's start making our dough. In a large bowl, combine the milk, the saffron sugar, the salt, the yeast and the cardamom. Now mix everything well. You want to dissolve the salt completely and hydrate the yeast. Keep mixing until you don't feel any more salt scraping against the bottom of the bowl. Now add the butter and follow that with the flour. And yes, in this recipe, we are adding all the ingredients at the same time. Because this dough doesn't contain any eggs, the butter can be added from the beginning. If eggs were used, I would advise adding the butter later, after kneading the dough for a few minutes, because eggs make things quite sticky. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be using the slap and fold kneading method. And this is how it works. You pick the dough up by one side, turn it 90 degrees, slap it against the table, and at the same time pull it towards yourself, and finally fold it over forwards. Now repeat a couple more 100 times, always performing the same move. Pick it up by one side, turn it 90 degrees, slap it against the table, fold it over forwards. And if you'd like to see a complete video about kneading methods, you can find one in the Principles of Baking playlist. You may notice here that I switched to the regular kneading method, but it was still too sticky, so I switched back to the slap and fold. It is the best way to go in this recipe. Okay, after slapping and folding your dough for around 10 minutes, this is what it should look like. It's nice and cohesive, smooth, and not sticky at all. Now we can pop it in the bowl and take its temperature. Around 25 to 26 degrees Celsius is just about right for this. And that's around 77 to 79 degrees Fahrenheit. If your dough is warmer, it will ferment more rapidly. If it's cooler, it will take longer. I'll leave this to rise for 1 hour, and then I'll give it a fold. It contains a lot of butter, so it's quite loose. Folding will tighten the dough, and it will make our buns keep their shape a little bit better. To perform a fold, drop the dough out on the table with the smooth side down, then flatten it, and start folding the edge over the middle whilst going around in a circle. Keep going until you reach the point where you started, and you have a nice tight dough ball. Flip it smooth side up again, tighten it against the table, and back in the bowl it goes. We'll cover it and leave it to ferment for 1 more hour, and now it should really start puffing up. By the end of bulk fermentation, your dough should have doubled in size. If it hasn't, then leave it to sit for a bit longer. But if it has risen, we can move on to dividing it. This recipe makes 8 buns, so weigh your dough and divide it into 8 equal pieces. After dividing, all the pieces of dough are a little bit randomly shaped, so we're going to pre-shape them to make them nice and uniform. And it's the same as the fold earlier. Flatten the dough, fold the edge over the middle, going around in a circle until you reach the point where you started. Then flip it smooth side up, tighten it against the table, and that's your dough ball done. And if you're lucky, the other ones might shape themselves. But regardless of what happens, after pre-shaping, we need to let them rest for 20 minutes. During this time, the gluten will relax and make our final shaping easier. And this is pretty straightforward. Gently roll out the dough ball, applying even pressure from the middle outwards. You want to roll it to about 30 centimeters or 1 foot long. You can make it longer if you want, but you don't want to make it shorter than that. After rolling, there's only one thing left to do. Twist the ends up in opposite directions to meet in the middle. I don't know if that made sense, but just watch my hands. You want to end up with an S shape. The buns are said to resemble a cat's tail or a sleeping cat, and I guess they kind of do, right? Nevertheless, it's a beautiful and unique shape. And the best part is that you get to do it 7 more times. I bet kids would love making these. Also, this is just one of the shapes. There are quite a few different ones that you could make. Right, arrange them on a tray with some non-stick paper, leave plenty of space between them because they will puff up quite a lot. Now we can cover them up and leave them for the final proof. The final proofing time will depend on the temperature of your kitchen. At around 24 degrees Celsius or 75 degrees Fahrenheit, they took me around 2 hours. You want to see them puffing up quite a lot. And if yours are being a little bit slow, then just leave them for a bit longer. During the final hour of fermentation, preheat the oven to 200 degrees Celsius, fan off. And that is 392 Fahrenheit. Because these buns are small, we want a quick and hot bake. Because if we bake them for longer, they'll just dry out. So a high temperature is a good option here. A nice egg glaze will give them a beautiful shine. But do take care when you're brushing them, because they are quite fragile and soft. Don't rush, just take your time. By the way, I have a detailed video about glazing, and it can also be found in the Principles of Baking playlist. If you're a beginner, you should definitely go through those videos. It is full of useful information. Okay, after glazing, there's only one more thing left to do. We need to poke some raisins into these buns. Well, I say raisins, I'm actually using currants, just because that's what I had at home. Actually, I think raisins will be better here because they are larger. But never mind, it's all good. Let's get these bad boys in the oven. They'll take only 15 minutes to fully bake. Once they are puffed up and beautifully golden brown all over, they are ready. If yours are browning unevenly, then turn the tray around halfway through the bake. They should have quite a dark and rich color once they're done. And don't these look just beautiful? I've seen other recipes where the buns are left to cool down and then brushed with butter and dipped in sugar. That does sound quite interesting, but I think they are beautiful as they are. And for me, they do not need any more additions. I'll leave those up to you, because they're your buns. Make them how you like them. And while I'm chowing down, let me remind you to check out the Breads of Christmas playlist. You'll find more than 20 delicious Christmas bread recipes there, and they are all unique and interesting. So if you can't make up your mind on what to bake this Christmas, you'll be spoiled for choice there. And look out for the next video, because we are not even halfway through this year's festive bakes. More delicious breads coming your way soon. So what do you think of this recipe? Have you ever tried it before? Let me know down in the comments. If you want to see more videos like this one, click over here. Subscribe to the channel, click right here. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.